CHAMPS High School Football Preview Show is presented by Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare. Also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. And by Hungry Howie's, your home for flavored crust. What's up, State Champs Nation? Time for our yearly preview of the Michigan high school football season. That's right, this program is powered by Lawrence Technological University. If you want a truly transformative college experience, do yourself a favor and take a tour of Lawrence Tech. Sign up for one of the many Blue Devil days. You get a tour, lunch, it's all great. Okay, let's talk football. We've got previews from all over the state of Michigan, but we're going to begin here in Southeast Michigan. State Champs digital managing editor is Matt Mowry. Matt has years and years of service to high school sports. He has been working hard to give us some insight. He's been tasked with previewing the Ann Arbor area, Macomb County, but we're going to begin with Oakland County. So give us the 411 on some of the teams that we need to pay attention to.
Well, in Oakland County, obviously, we're going to start with the top division of the Oakland Athletic Association, the Red Division. And that's been where the contenders have come from. It's been almost a decade since West Bloomfield and Clarkston were both shut out of that top spot. And they're picked for the top two spots again this year. We'll talk more about them later on in the top 10 because they're both top 10 teams. But right behind those two is a Southfield A&T team that is loaded in the passing game. They've got a senior quarterback in Anthony Rumpf who's going to Florida Atlantic, and 3 Division I level wideouts in Aaron Folks and transfers Christian Fitzpatrick and Robert Army Jr. And the Warriors return 6 of 7 in the front 7 on defense, but they're going to have to be a little stouter on defense than they have been in the last couple of years. Last year, 5 of the 7 OAA Red teams made the playoffs, and Oxford, Lake Orion, and Rochester Adams all returned that key component, the senior quarterback. So we could look at a repeat of that this year. When you drop down to the OAA White, Oak Park is the favorite there. That's a team that has been kind of building towards something, but you can't count out Birmingham Groves. That's a team that's won 38 games over the last 4 seasons and gone to the D2 semifinals twice in 3 postseason runs. Marcus Alexander is a steady quarterback under center. He's got weapons in Clayton Fox, Eli Turner, and Colby Taylor. And the secondary is strong, led by safeties Caleb Coleman and Ralph Donaldson and corner Jack Curran. In the lower levels of the OAA, North Farmington and Farmington have been the beneficiaries of the closing of Farmington Hills Harrison. They both got the players that remained after graduation last year. Farmington is already coming off an 8-win season last year, its highest win total in 15 years, and a district title, and has a defense built around Wisconsin-bound linebacker Jordan Turner. But North Farmington, which inherited much of the Harrison coaching staff to help out first-year coach John Herstein, hasn't made the playoffs since 2013 and hasn't won a playoff game since the 1970s. So the Raiders would dearly love to capture some of that Harrison magic in a bottle. And then we go over to the Catholic League, where Novi Detroit Catholic Central, the Shamrocks have lost 9 games over the last 2 seasons. That hasn't happened since 2005, 2006. But if you use that logic to count out the Shamrocks, you can never count them out. They have a stout running game as always. They have a quarterback in Jack Benno behind an experienced line, and they have a stout defense. So they'll probably be right there in contention in the Catholic League as well. It's been an even bigger struggle at Orchard Lake St. Mary's over the last 2 seasons, where they've gone 5-12 combined, missing the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time since '95 and '96. But with quarterback Grant Henson and wideouts Cam Arnold and Anthony Nchukwu, they certainly have the talent to turn it around quickly.
John Harrington, the legend himself, is not removed from coaching entirely. He will be a line coach at North Farmington. Of course, Herstein, one of his former assistant coach. It would be certainly fun to talk North Farmington football on this show. We will see what happens. Let's move now into Macomb County. Why don't we start with the state champs?
Which ones? We've got 2 state champs. Division I and Division II about 8 miles apart in Clinton Township, Chippewa Valley, that won D1, and Warren De La Salle, which went back-to-back in D2. We start with De La Salle if we want. They're the favorites again in the Catholic League. Central Division with a big offensive line that features Adam Zepp and Michael Young, as well as Ohio State-bound Grant Toutant. They get Anthony Stepnitz, their quarterback last year, who missed a lot of the season. He's back for his senior year, and that defense over the last 2 years has been stifling. It has to replace quite a few players, but you can always count on that defense really clamping down on people. And we go over to the MAC, the Macomb Area Conference. Chippewa Valley is obviously the defending champs, but that's one of those leagues that always has a team that's going to set to make a run. And it might be the next team below Chippewa Valley this year, might be Macomb Dakota. They've got 4 or 5 starters back on the offensive line. They've got a do-it-all back in DeJavian Stepney, who plays running back and free safety. And they've got a new quarterback in Zach Drosky, who replaces the graduated Mark Toko. Romeo was another one of those MAC Red teams. If they can stay healthy, last year they had 14 starters miss 2 or more games of action. So they've got 6 starters back on offense and 5 on defense. So again, that's a team that's got a lot of experience returning. The Utica Eisenhower is the only of the MAC Red contenders that's got a starting quarterback back, with Blake Ristighi coming back. They've got 5 others on offense, and they've got a very fast, it's not a big defensive front 7, but it's a fast and quick one. And then when we drop down to the MAC White, Grosse Pointe South hasn't lost a divisional game since 2015, so they're the favorites there. They return a lot of a defense that last year gave up 108 points in 10 games. 24 of that was in the opening round loss to Dearborn Fordson. So if they can fix some problems and replace some graduates on offense, that's another team that will rely on that defense to keep it close. The Blue Division has a program that's kind of on the rise in Port Huron Northern. Made the playoffs the last 3 seasons, winning its first ever district title last year. The name that people will probably recognize from that team is Michigan-bound defensive end Braden McGregor, but they also return linebackers Justin Harrison and Luke O'Hare. Seth Klink is back at quarterback, and Theo Ellis is back at running back. Of the MAC teams that were champions last year, they returned the biggest core of players and the biggest core of all MAC players.
Yeah, we'll see what really happens with Utica Eisenhower. That's a team who we haven't talked a whole lot about the last couple of seasons. Big game right out of the gate with Brother Rice. First time those two have ever met. Of course, you'll see those highlights on State Champs. We shall see. Let's finish up this section in Ann Arbor. What's up in Washtenaw?
Well, the program that's kind of the bellwether in the Ann Arbor area has been Saline. They've gone 71-12 since 2012, making the regional finals or beyond 5 times, going into the finals in 2014 and the semis last year, losing both times to Clarkston. They're young again this season. Last year they were young on the lines. This year they'll be young at the skill positions because they've graduated Andrew Arbor, the quarterback, and do everything running back, Brendan Monday, and MJ Griffin who went to Temple, who was all over the place last year. Anthony Ferrari and Larry Robinson will be the battle to see who replaces Arbor at quarterback. And they have an experienced wide receiver in Colton Malinzak that they're going to be able to throw to. And on defense, they have Zach Sabin, Air Force-bound linebacker Alex Morrison, and defensive back Noah Nelson. They all bring some experience to the defense. Last year at Chelsea, we had obviously one of the new coaches in the area, and Josh Lucas taking over. Started 3-2, and they looked like they were maybe, weren't going to come out as well as they wanted to. Finished behind in the SEC White a couple of programs that had historically great storylines and historically great seasons in Jackson and Dexter, so they kind of flew under the radar until all of a sudden you looked up in the D4 championship game, oh, there's Chelsea again playing Edwardsburg for the title. The Bulldogs lost 90% of their offensive production, primarily from Quinn Starkey, their quarterback, and Hunter Neff, their all-star wide receiver. So it could be a little bit of a rebuilding year this year, but again, that's a Chelsea program that is used to losing players like that and kind of reloads rather than rebuilds. One of those teams that we mentioned that had the historically great season was Dexter, where they early on in the season broke what was at the time the state's longest losing streak at 42 games. That alone would be enough for them to have had a great season, except then they made the playoffs for the first time ever. And the Dexter team scored 283 points on offense, which was more than the previous 3 seasons combined. They have Colin Parachek, their quarterback, coming back, and Antoine Ficklin Jr. among 6 starters on offense and 6 starters on defense coming back as well. So this could be kind of a year where they get to prove whether or not last year was at all a fluke. Another program that's got a returning star quarterback in the Ann Arbor area is Ann Arbor Pioneer, where sophomore at the time, Connor Easthope, grabbed the job in training camp last year and then performed well enough after a little hiccup at the start where he started getting Division I offers from a lot of the MAC schools. The Pioneers haven't made the playoffs since 2015 and they haven't gotten the regional round since 2011. So kind of getting back to where, because that program in the 1980s was one of the stud programs in the state. So getting back to that level is probably going to take some baby steps, but when you've got a quarterback like Easthope, you certainly have hope.
Yeah, they had some good run in the kind of late 2000s. Obviously had some teams that were very competitive. The Dexter Dreadnoughts, it's good to be talking football. We're usually talking cross country and girls swimming in the fall, so interesting to see how they continue to develop. And of course, it seems like the Saline Hornets have been snake bit when it comes to just finally getting over that major hump and finally winning a championship. We'll see if they can make another run for it this season. All right, he is Matt Mowry, and he will be back to discuss our preseason state champs top 10 rankings. That's coming up in just a bit.
Here in West Michigan, the OK Conference never disappoints when it comes to delivering compelling matchups in division races. And the OK Gold this year looks like it might be the best of the bunch. I'm Jason Hutton here at Grand Rapids Christian, where the Eagles were co-champs with rival East Grand Rapids in 2018. Both GRC and the Pioneers look to be contenders again this fall, especially the Eagles, who return 9 on defense, 5 on offense, and have quarterback Easton Hardawin, who was so good last year as a junior, and speedster at running back Thad Gamble as well. The Pioneers are led by their senior star running back John Shelton, but the OK Gold is deep. You look at Thornapple Kellogg. The Trojans really came on last year with a bunch of juniors, Gabe Nelson, Cole Shoebridge, and the list goes on. Under head coach Jeff Dock, hopes are high at TK as well, and South Christian can never be counted out. Now, for Grand Rapids Christian, their enrollment is as low as it's been, and with 8-man team increasing, the Eagles look like they very well could be headed to Division IV this year if they make the postseason, where they could potentially run into West Michigan, a Division IV power, Grand Rapids Catholic Central. The Cougars should be good, as always, led by outstanding wide receiver Jace Williams, who recently picked up a Michigan State offer. Now, as we go around the area, Muskegon, the Big Reds, been to Ford Field 6 of the last 7 years. They, of course, return arguably the best player in the state in Ohio State commit Cameron Martinez. But the guy who played quarterback last year as a junior is going to get to do some other things this year in the Big Red offense, because Muskegon has a junior, Amari Crowley, who can really throw it, and the Big Reds plan to play both of them in the same backfield this year on offense. Now, of course, Muskegon's biggest threat in the OK Black over the years has been rival Mona Shores. The Sailors are coming off a trip to Ford Field themselves, a 12-2 season and a Division II state runner-up. They graduated a ton of really good players, but maybe the best that they brought back was senior quarterback Caden Boersma. Unfortunately, he'll start the season on the sideline as he has a broken bone in his throwing hand, and he'll miss the first 2 games. But the Sailors have some talented players at the skill positions, led by Keandre Pierce. In the OK Green, it's deep as always. Unity Christian won the Division V state championship in 2018, the school's first, and they have just 20 varsity players as they start 2019, but numbers are always low at Unity, but Craig Tibby's bunch always seems to get it done. They're loaded in the backfield, led by senior quarterback Isaac Tesla and running backs Malachi Obande and Hayden Large. As we move to the OK Red, East Kentwood undefeated outright OK Red champs last season. Certainly some big roles to fill for EK, but they've got some more guys coming. Bryce Mostella, defensive end, committed to Penn State, and on the offensive line, Michigan State commit Dallas Fincher. Now, last year the OK Red came down to East Kentwood and Rockford. The Rams should be good as always. Of course, they start the season with head coach Ralph Munger. battling a heart condition. He had quadruple bypass surgery and will not be able to coach at least as the season starts, but longtime assistant and very good defensive coordinator Randy Vanderveen is leading the charge in the interim. In the West Michigan Conference, Montague has won the league the last 2 years. The Wildcats were Division VI state runner-up last year, their third trip to Ford Field under Pat Collins. They lost a large and talented senior class, so they've got a lot of questions to answer, but they do return Pat Collins' son, Drew Collins, at quarterback, who played very well for them there as a sophomore. In the SMAC Conference, Portage Northern is coming off its best season since 1981. The Huskies opened their brand new stadium, won 9 games, including a district championship, and among their leading returners, outstanding running back Tyler Amos. Rival Portage Central will open its brand new stadium this fall, and the Ponies have made the playoffs 7 straight seasons. And baseball standout LSU commit Luke Leto will play quarterback for the Mustangs. In the Southwestern Athletic Conference Valley Division, Schoolcraft is loaded, led by senior standout running back Kobe Clark, but they also return junior quarterback Alex Thole, who had 4 sophomore wide receivers that become juniors with him as well. The Eagles, the team to beat there, but of course Kalamazoo United, the defending champs, they lost most of their offense, led by record-setting quarterback Eric Wenzel. The one wide receiver that returns, Christian Bartholomew, is switching to quarterback this year for the Titans, who return a lot on defense and figure to play a role as well. As we look ahead to week 1 on this side of the state, a lot of great matchups in the Wolverine Conference. Edwardsburg was the Division IV state champion last year, but the teams that finished 2nd and 3rd, Paw Paw and Three Rivers, meet in Wildcat Country on the Thursday night, August the 29th. Rockford will be here at Grand Rapids Christian for another blockbuster season opener, and just up the road at East Grand Rapids, Zeeland West visits for another great game. And Belding, loaded with talent, brought in Monty Price as head coach from Reed City. They'll open at home against a team it lost to in the first round of the playoffs last year, Oak Ridge. The Eagles always really good as well. A lot to look forward to in West Michigan high school football 2019.
I'm Alex Sims with a preview of what's going on in the Lansing area, and we start with St. John's, or early Monday morning, if you will. The countdown clock to midnight in the first practice of the year at St. John's High School. The Red Wings coming off a 5-5 season and under the direction of a new head coach this season. Andy Schmidt comes home. He was a star quarterback at St. John's back in the early 2000s. He now gets his chance to run the program at his alma mater, and he's only 32 years old. And his Red Wing players were thrilled with the opportunity to hit their own field of dreams as the clock struck midnight, and they went until around 2 o'clock in the morning. The Grand Ledge Comets, who are also under the direction of a new head coach this year, he's Joe Bry, who takes over for longtime coach Matt Bird, who left following last season to take the head coaching job at Reese Puffer High School in Muskegon. And Bry is happy to be home. That's right, Bry not only graduated from Grand Ledge in 2005, but played on the varsity squad as a free safety in 2003 and in 2004. Now to Holt. Chad Falk is beginning year number 5 as a Rams head coach, and he's elated about this group. He has 20 seniors who he calls all high-quality guys, and they've been in his system for 4 straight years. The goal this offseason was to get stronger, get bigger, get faster. So Coach Fritz, the Rams strength and conditioning coach, came up with an idea to do just that, and it involves those shiny gold sledgehammers.
We kind of got away from being that blue-collar, hardworking kid, and this year with this group of seniors that we have, they've kind of embraced that all the way down through the freshmen. And go! Ever since they had a really intense workout with the hammers and tires and all this, they've actually gone out and painted them and have slept with them and all these things. So we're getting back to those old blue-collar roots of working hard for everything we get.
Our next stop takes us to Fowlerville High School, where the high-flying Gladiators are all fired up for the first week of the season. They're trying to be a force in the fiercely competitive CAAC White, but with Lansing Catholic and Portland in the same league, it's difficult to keep up. John Fletcher is the coach of the Glads, and he's one of the youngest head coaches in the area, just 28 years old and entering his 3rd season at the helm. Fowlerville just missed the playoffs last season, finishing with a 4-5 record, so they're ready to roll.
The kids are excited. We've had a great off-season, great summer. Just the energy's really there, and beautiful day out, so we're really excited.
Enthusiastic, fast, hard effort. Let's go. 4 expectations. Go.
We're trying to build off the success we had last year, and we struggled at times, but we did a lot of things well, and we're just trying to continue to build. Tough league, but we're excited for what we got and what we can look forward to.
And lastly, we head to Portland High School, an electrifying team last year. The Raiders were undefeated all season until falling in the state championship game to Hudsonville Unity Christian. And the Raiders also had one of the best running backs in the area in Jacob Veal. He has since graduated, so the Raiders have a lot of new faces this year and young faces, according to 21st year head coach John Navarra. The big question for his team is on the offensive side of the ball and who will fill the void after Veal's departure.
I think that instead of having one big horse at running back, we're going to be a little bit more diverse, have several kids that can do the job. And I think we may throw the football a little bit more this year. We got some good skilled kids, but I don't think we're going to have the one guy that we give the ball to 30 times a game. We feel like teams are going to have to defend us a little bit different because we're going to use all parts of the field.
I've always been really good at math and science, and I knew I wanted to work in healthcare, but not as a doctor. So I chose Lawrence Tech's Biomedical Engineering program. I've pushed myself to take internships, like this one, at a hospital in an orthopedic research lab. Thanks to Lawrence Tech's unique, hands-on style of education, I'm graduating with a published research paper and a job. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
What's up, guys? Lauren Plant here to tell you about a real cool program we've developed. We're always looking for new and unique ways to celebrate the sweat and sacrifice our student athletes put in. Now, when it comes to awards, seems like the seniors have it locked up. Most Player of the Year awards seem to be reserved for seniors and seniors only. Well, not anymore. For the 2019-2020 school year, State Champs is introducing the all-junior teams. For every MHSAA sport, and I mean every sport, State Champs will name the top male and female junior at the end of their season. All season long, you can follow the watch list at statechampsnetwork.com, on the State Champs show, and on social media. After all, juniors are upperclassmen. They should be treated as such. State Champs will finally be the media organization to award the best of the best. Stay tuned.
I'm Greg Molson, getting ready for the high school football season in the Flint area. And let's start with the area's defending state champion. New Lothrop won the Division 7 state title last year, beating Madison Heights Madison 50-44 in the highest scoring game in state finals history. And the Hornets have the quarterback who led that explosive offense, Avery Moore, back to try to do it again.
I mean, I'm a little biased, but I believe he's one of the best quarterbacks in the state, especially best dual threat quarterback in the state. And he's literally like having another coach on the field. So having him for another year is obviously a blessing.
I want to, break what I did last year. I want to, obviously I want to get more total yards, more total touchdowns. But right now, I kind of my focus is kind of just with the team. And I want to do what I can do to get the team to state championship again.
Led by the Grand Valley State commit, and with 6 starters returning on each side of the ball, the Hornets believe they have the talent to get back to Ford Field. The key is going to be their mindset, and they insist they are not satisfied.
Getting there again is something that everybody would want to do. If you've been there, you know you want to be there again. So that's just the motivation, and it's awesome.
As soon as we walked off that field, the guys that were going to be back, we weren't even off the field yet, and they all said, hey, we want to do this again. So I think for us, it's been great motivation. Because we know that feeling. We all want that feeling again. So we're going to try to do whatever it takes to get back there and have that same feeling again.
With New Lothrop's move to the Mid-Michigan Activities Conference last season, Flint Hamady took over as the top team in the Genesee Area Conference. The Hawks put together their first ever undefeated regular season and won their first ever district championship last year. They should be good again with 16 returning starters. For the first time in 8 years, Fenton is not the defending champ in the Flint Metro League. As Flushing and Brandon tied for the title, the Tigers will be looking to get back on top this year in an expanded Metro League that will now feature 2 divisions and a crossover game for the overall championship. Lapeer is the defending champ in the Saginaw Valley Blue Division. The Lightning had their 3rd perfect regular season in 5 years before losing in the regional final. Led by Phoenix Dixon, the Lightning should be loaded again with the goal of making it farther in the postseason.
We've been right there close. I think we've lost the 4 times that we've lost in the tournament. 4 of those times the team has ended up in the finals, and 3 of them they've won it. So we're close. We just got to break through, and keep doing what's right. We don't need major changes, but just little things.
We've been working hard in the off season, even more in the weight room, because we want to get back to state champs. We want to be over there. We lost, tough loss last year, Clarkston. Very unfortunate, but we're working even harder to get right back to where we were.
Moving north to the Valley Red Division, Midland will be led by junior quarterback Al Money, who got called up from the JV team after the varsity team lost its first 2 games. The move paid off, with Money leading the Chemics all the way to the Division II state semifinals. They'll be trying to take the league title away from Mount Pleasant. The Oilers put together a surprising perfect regular season, but they know they won't surprise anyone this season.
Absolutely, and it's not our first time, coming off a season like that, right? Yeah, so we know that we are going to be the target. We're going to be circled on the calendars. We're going to be all those things, and anytime you're the returning champion, you're going to be the one everybody's trying to knock off. So I think the Saginaw Valley North is going to be as tough as it's been in quite a while, and we're really going to have our work cut out for us this year.
Big changes have come to the Tri-Valley Conference, with the league moving from 3 divisions to just 2. Frankenmuth has won 7 straight East Division titles, but the Eagles will face a tough challenge this year, with Swan Valley moving to the east. The Vikings have gone 17-1 over the last 2 regular seasons, making it to the Division V state final 2 years ago and the semifinal last year. In the Tri-Valley West, Ithaca has not lost a league game since 2009, but the Yellow Jackets will now be joined in the West by Millington, the team that ended their season in the first round of the playoffs last year. That loss, along with the end of their 73-game regular season winning streak, has given the Jackets plenty of motivation going into this year, as they'll try to make it to Ford Field for the 8th time in 10 years.
I mean, that's a lot of motivation, obviously. We were hoping to go a lot further than we did last year, but knowing that we lost in the first round, there's a lot more motivation, kind of knowing, hey, it's not just going to happen just because we're Ithaca. We got to be willing to put in the work.
There's a little bit of pressure, because there's such big shoes to fill, because we've been so good in the past, and last year we weren't really good. We didn't finish very far, so some pressure this year, for sure.
Well, I think they want to leave their mark. There's no doubt, and we've talked to them about that. Those teams before you have earned everything that they've got, and now it's your chance to earn your place in Ithaca football history. And how do you want to be remembered?
Now it's time to talk about Northeast Michigan. Last season, 8 area teams advanced to postseason play.
This year, we've got a few changes from coaches to divisions and more, starting with 11-man football.
A lot of adjustments are to be expected for the Alpino Wildcats. First-year head coach Eric Mitchell is bringing a lot of changes to the defensive side of the ball. Last year, the Wildcats finished with a record of 3-6 for Class A, and the defense couldn't carry the load. On the other side of the ball, the offense was the main flaw when it came down to the final stretch. Even though the Wildcats are working with a 29-man roster, the expectations are very high.
We're a little small on the roster size, but I think we're looking solid, and it's going to be a good year.
We still have lofty goals. We have guys that can make plays. We have athletes in this school. We know what we can do. Looking at our schedule, we definitely picked up a couple tough non-conference games. We play in a pretty difficult conference, but we still have really high goals for this season.
Oscoda is bringing back a stronger team this season after finishing last year 8-2 in Class C. The Elks dominated Northeast Michigan, but fell short in the first round of playoffs. Head coach Mark Whitley is returning at least 8 seniors, including quarterback Braden Malik and All-State junior wide receiver Owen Franklin. All of the action starts up front with linemen Christian Ward and Adam Hine. A fast, hard-hitting team that will be tough to stop.
We got a really quick, strong, competitive team. We did lose a lot of big guys on the front, but honestly, I think we made up for it in speed and strength.
We have offensive linemen that can run as fast as our backs. That makes it difficult. We get out and run on jet, and it's tough.
Switching gears to their rivals, the Tawas Braves are hungry for a district title in Class B. Last year, the Braves finished with a 5-4 record. It was a short postseason for the Braves as they lost in pre-district to Kingsley by a score of 62-22. Tawas is returning a ton of seniors to this year's roster, including wide receiver Camden Grove. Overall, this is a team that is very confident heading into the regular season, and they're taking it one day at a time.
We're all competitive, and we've been lifting this whole offseason. I'm pretty confident.
So far, so good.
Like I said, I take it slow, and I love what I see so far, and hopefully tomorrow is another good day.
Rogers City is looking to have another great season under second-year head coach Jesse Fenstermaker for Class C. Hurons finished last season 8-2, losing in the first round of playoffs. This year, Rogers City returned 7 seniors, including wide receiver Jalen Fleming and J.D. Ellenberger. Lewis Fleming will charge out of the backfield with first-year varsity quarterback Isaac Hine, who has a cannon for an arm. Expect the Hurons' dual-threat offense to make a playoff run this season.
Ever since he was on JV, we knew he'd be a stud when he was playing. I mean, he could throw a beautiful ball, and as long as his head's up, I mean, we should be doing great.
Teams aren't going to know what to make of us, whether we're going to run or pass. We're going to keep them on their toes.
Switching over to 8-man football, the Posen Vikings look to make some more noise in Class D. The Vikings finished with an 8-3 record. This year, the offense looks to put up big numbers led by senior quarterback George Kroll. Last year, this high-flying offense averaged over 39 points a game. They hope to keep the momentum going heading into this season, but everyone needs to do their job.
Yeah, I think this year it's going to depend on basically how hard everyone works. Everyone's got to play their role. I got to carry out the fakes, make the decisions. The guys got to carry out the fakes. Linemen got to block. I mean, everybody's got to play their part.
Mayo is going to be the hidden gem in 8-man play. The Thunderbolts have not won a game in 2 years, but this season they are bringing in some basketball height at wide receiver with 3 kids over 6 feet tall, which will help senior quarterback Brendan DeFlorio and running back Pete Sosha.
I've had the same quarterback here for 4 years, and he only continues to get better every year, and I expect, big things out of him. We have a lot of tall receivers, and they can all go up and high point the ball, catch the ball. Running, passing, we're looking to be really balanced.
We've never been a big threat passing, so in this year with River and Brendan and Drew, we can really throw the ball up high and let them go get it. And on defense, we got great inside linebackers. They're going to tackle people and hit them hard.
I'm Jake Vanderbrook.
And I'm Laura Saliska with the preview from Northeast Michigan.
I'm Jake Durant, and we preview the Upper Peninsula as we head into the season.
If there's one word to best describe this year's football landscape in the UP, it would be parity. There may not be a favorite in any conference leading up to the kickoff of the season, which should mean countless weeks of entertaining football. The closest thing to a favorite might be the Rapid River Rockets. Playing in the 8-player league, Rapid River is the only defending champion from the UP. They were able to capture their first Division II state championship last season after runner-up finishes in 2011 and 2013. They will have to reload their defense, who loses all UP Dream Team selections, defensive end Sam Orth and linebacker Lenny Maneri. The offense will focus around all UP first-teamer running back Tyler Sunling. The Rockets look to make the postseason for the 9th straight season since joining the 8-player league in 2011. We will see a new face on the sideline for a storied UP program. Ishpeming welcomes in George Nemi as their new head coach. Nemi takes over for legendary head coach Jeff Olson, who spent 27 years with Ishpeming. Olson led the Hematites to the MHSAA Division VII state championship game 5 times, including 4 straight appearances from 2012 to 2015, and he won the state titles with Ishpeming in 2012, 2013, and 2015. Nemi says he will stick to Olson's winning formula, running the ball out of their Wildcat formation and playing hard-nosed defense. Ishpeming will face some pretty stiff competition in the Westpac Conference. The Calumet Copper Kings won the Westpac Championship last season, going a perfect 9-0, but they lose a lot of production on both sides of the ball. West Iron County is always tough, and we can't forget about Negaunee and Iron Mountain, who return experience under center. The Miners will lean on 3-year starter Jason Waterman to help guide them back to the top of the conference. The Mountaineers will have all the confidence in Marcus Johnson. Johnson most recently led the basketball team to the state title game. In the Great Northern Conference, Marquette and Escanaba shared a GNC title last season. The Eskimos and Redmond played in an instant classic last year. After Escanaba took the lead in overtime, the Redmen scored on their first possession, and then they went on to score the game-deciding 2-point play. You can expect the Eskimos to have that game marked on their calendar this upcoming season. Dave Howes always fields a tough, deep team who will look to wear you down throughout the game with a physical run game and defense. Marquette welcomes in first-year head coach Eric Mason, who takes over for Dave LaHillier. The Redmen had arguably the most explosive offense in all of the UP last season, but they lose big-time weapons Adam Genchek and all-state receiver Ethan Martish. But Mason and company think they have the playmakers to make up for that lost production.
All right, time to get back into some Southeast Michigan football. To do that, proud member of the state champs team, Scott Bernstein, back ready to talk some football.
Dude, the pigskin paradise, best time of the year. Fall's about to hit us. Football's about to be here. Full force. I'm ready to go. Let's run and gun.
All right, so Matt Mowry covered various counties in the earlier portion of the show. Bernie is here to talk about Detroit city limit football, what's happening in the downriver area, and then also kind of that area that kind of spreads out, that KLAA Western Wayne kind of, yes.
Slash LVC,
right.
KLAA.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about the city. And of course, you want to start with the big dogs.
Yeah, you know, we're in a real renaissance period, I think, for prospecting in the city of Detroit. I mean, just blue chippers coming out of the woodwork everywhere. This year, when you're talking about blue chippers in the city of Detroit, you got to start with Detroit King. They got 5 blue chippers right now, starting with a Fab Frosh, a diaper dandy at quarterback, Dante DJ Moore, only a freshman. He's getting the starting nod. He's already got a Michigan offer from Jim Harbaugh. Then you move over to some of the weapons he's going to have to play with. Rashawn Williams, wide receiver, top-rated wide receiver in the state of Michigan. He's a 4-star going to Indiana. He's going to be handing the ball off to Penny Boone. Probably the best running back in the senior class, had a huge state finals last year. Kings coming off state championships in 3 of the last 4 years. On the line, DeAndre Buford, another 4-star talent, just a road grader up front, going to provide a lot of protection. He's committed to Kentucky. And then Jalen Reed in the secondary as a junior, really good safety, rangy, instinctive, love him. And then a real supersonic sleeper special, in my opinion, best value for defensive back right now on the prospect market, senior Joe Frazier at King. Let's move over to Cass Tech for a second. This year, they don't have the 4 stars, the 5 stars. They got a lot of real nice 2 and 3 stars. They don't have the skill positions, you know, the high level, college-bound studs at the skill positions they have, but they still have a lot of talent. Sebastian Brown's moving in at quarterback. You got the King boys, Kobe King, Kalen King, linebacker, cornerback. Then they got 2 potential blue chippers up front in Raheem Anderson and Terrence Enos. I really like those guys. Detroit Denby's got 2 real intriguing prospects to look at when you're getting outside of King and Cass. On the defensive line, Latrell Tompkins is a defensive end. He's committed to Toledo. And then Jermaine Trammell's another guy that people are starting to look at as a defensive lineman. Going into the smaller schools, Detroit Loyola, John Callahan came back last year, you know, just gangbusters right out of the gate. He's got 9 Prep Bowl championships at Loyola, had taken a little reprieve on the sidelines a little bit, came back, took them back into the playoffs. They got a really nice group of players up front, a beefy line, and then it's a nice storyline going on over at Loyola right now. They got about 6 alumni that have come back to coach with John Callahan.
Beautiful, beautiful. How about over in River Rouge, a little outside?
Coming off an early playoff exit last year, they're coming off 4 seasons where they've gone to the state semifinals 3 of the past 4 years. This year, breaking in a new quarterback. My boy Manny Fresh Ferguson's over at Lawrence Tech. You know, calling signals for the Blue Devils. Now we're moving in. Marian Robowski's going to take over. He's an athletic dual threat quarterback, you know, in a similar mode to Manny Fresh Ferguson. DeAndre Bully is their running back, just a very powerful running back. He's at the forefront of a lot of great power runners we have in the state right now. Xavier Smith is an Eastern Michigan commit. He's a wide receiver. He'll be catching the ball. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you got Deshaun Walker, the linebacker, going to Toledo. You got David Carter, who's a cornerback, going to Eastern Michigan. And then another guy that you really need to look for in terms of a sleeper, Josh Wiley's coming over from the PSL. He played at Cody last year. He was one of the best players in the PSL last year that no one knew about. This year, you got to know about him at River Rouge.
Right, and because they don't necessarily play a really heavy, hard schedule, they do have some nice out-of-conference games. They take on Grand Rapids Catholic Central in week 1, so that should be very interesting.
Corey Parker's who's doing an excellent job taking that program and really making it an elite program in the state of Michigan.
All right, what's happening in the downriver area?
Yeah, then we're going to start talking about Belleville. You know, I call them a microwave superpower. They seem to be tracking towards a possible microwave dynasty. I think I've been real impressed with the incremental improvements they've made over these last couple years, taking those steps. This year, it's really, you know, a Ford Field or bust. They got a lot of talent again. Christian Dewey Reed's coming back, his 3rd year starting under center. You know, he's a little small, for a quarterback, but that actually, the trend is going towards smaller quarterbacks. Doesn't have the college love that you think you'd have, considering that he threw for like 3,000 yards last year, almost 50 touchdowns.
This will be big. The
stats speak for themselves. The playmaking speaks for itself. He's a guy that people will get hip to very soon, but there's a ton of talent there. Jalen Williams is receiver, really nice now that Barnett's gone off to Michigan State. Coleon Smith up front's going to Indiana. You got Jamari Budin as a linebacker prospect. He's got a bunch of Big Ten schools offering him right now and interested in him. Maybe the best set of cornerbacks in the whole state. Andre Seldon, the fastest player in the secondary in the whole state. He's going to Michigan at one corner, and then you got Brandon Des-Fernandez at the other corner. He's going to Iowa. So you got two Big Ten bound corners, lockdown corners in the secondary. And then safety Ronnie Jackson, to me, is a guy, great value. I love him at the free safety spot. And then Mike Jenkins is an underclassman to look for, getting a lot of interest right now at the Division I level. Moving on to some other schools that are, to be of note in that area. You got Carlson. Without question, the most versatile player in the state, Ian Stewart. He's going to Michigan State. He can play running back, receiver, quarterback, linebacker, safety, return kicks. He does it all. His brother, Bryce Stewart, is going to be the main tailback. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they got Anthony Estrada captaining the secondary from a safety spot, and Nick MacArthur on the defensive line. Allen Park had a real nice year last year. They won a district. They got one of the best running backs downriver coming back in Nico Taveria as a senior. Colton Caswell is going to take over at quarterback. From the linebacker spot, Johnny Ball does a great job quarterbacking that defense, along with Andy Rosman and Mac Alvarez on the defensive line. Johnny Ball is a linebacker. Wyandotte, you got Jalen Pitchford, one of the best junior quarterbacks in the state, starting to get a lot of Division I love. A dual threat, a guy that threw for about close to 20 touchdowns last year in his first year starting. He's got a nice running back, Christian Cooper, to hand the ball off to. On the defensive side of the ball, Logan McGraw as a linebacker and Richard Clark as a defensive end bring that pass rush. Woodhaven's a school that had a nice campaign last year. Clarence Corbett, one of the better tailbacks in the league. He's a guy to look out for. And then Josh Waters at quarterback. Fortune's got a really nice quarterback that's coming into the mix, a guy that could be a real game changer these next couple years. Ali Beydoun, he's going to take over the reins. And then they got James Wheeler, who's a bowling ball of a running back, a type of guy that you getting moving downhill, he's tough to stop. So Dearborn is another intriguing story. I don't know the last time the Pioneers had two blue chip recruits. Right now they got two guys going to the Big Ten. Wide receiver, tight end, Tommy Guajardo, one of the hottest prospects in the offseason, committed to Michigan State. And then Ali Saad on the defensive line, headed to Minnesota. Over at Brighton, Will Jones, the quarterback, he's off to Indiana. Colton Newberry is stepping in. He's going to have a new pass target to play with in Ruben Salinas, who's coming over from those Friday Night Lights of the Lone Star State, coming over from Texas, landed in Brighton. He'll probably be one of the better receivers in the KLAA this year.
All right, let's head back into kind of western Oakland County, the South Lyons Walled Lake schools.
Yeah, so let's go over to the Lakes Valleys Conference. Last year, South Lyon ran the table, won the whole thing, won the league, kind of out of nowhere. This year, they're going to be the favorite. Connor Fracassi, the signal caller, 3-year starter, he's back. He's got a great stablemate to stretch the field with in Brandon Locke. He's committed to Michigan State, one of the better receivers in the LVC. And then Jesse Powell is going to be at the forefront of that defense. He can play linebacker. He can play on the defensive line and rush the passer. Lakeland is another team that snuck up on people last year, kind of a group of no-names, not a lot of college recruits, just really gritty, hard-nosed football players. Dakota Myers, another great power back, has ran for over 1,000 yards both his sophomore and junior year. He should be one of the best running backs in Oakland County this season. Walled Lake Western, this offseason's been a bit controversial with the ineligibility ruling of their Northwestern commit receiver, Abdur Rahman Yassin. But, they have a lot of depth to rely on, even if Yassin doesn't get eligible via an appeal. Zach Trainer's coming in at quarterback. He started as a freshman at Heartland, then came over to Western last year, backed up Sam Johnson, learned a lot. He's the type of kid that, in my opinion, by next year, he could be the best quarterback in the senior class for the class of 2021. That's how talented he is. 6'2", he's broad, just great command in the presence, can make all the throws, and is just the definition of a leader. They're moving C.J. Brown, their Northern Illinois commit, who's going to Northern Illinois as a safety. He was a tailback last year. This year, you're going to see him in the slot. You're going to see him split out as a wide receiver. Going to be a little more versatile version of C.J. Brown. And then let's just finish up real quick with Walled Lake Northern. They're my sleeper in the LVC, bringing back a lot of veterans on the line, specifically Kyle Arnoldy, a 4-year starter, going to Western Michigan. He's a guy that's really been the linchpin in the trenches. And then they got Seamus Hunt, who's a tight end, starting to gain some traction on his receiving. And then a real sleeper at quarterback, Carter Mulholland, will be in his first year starting. A lot of buzz around this kid in the offseason.
There you go. He is Scott Bernstein. He is a proud member, card-carrying member of the State Champs Scout team. You've now heard about teams from all over the state. That is the preview. When we come back, we're going to preview with Matt Mowry our first preseason State Champs Top 10. Don't go anywhere.
There's an old saying, you can never have too many officials. The age of the average official is 52 and getting older all the time. We're constantly recruiting new people, younger people to join us. After you register with the MHSAA, look on the website to find an officials association near you. They'll put you in a position to succeed as an official. We all learned a lot from high school sports, and officiating is a great way to give back to the game. There's help wanted, just whistle.
Touchdown, Falcons.
LP here to let you know that we are soon set to debut our new focus on recruiting. Many of the guys you hear from now, including Matt Mowry, Scott Bernstein, TJ Kelly, Dan Stickrat, and more, will make up the new State Champs Scout team. Beginning in September, a weekly State Champs Scout show will air every week, along with companion blogs at statechampsnetwork.com. Of course, we'll talk football, but just like State Champs' mission to cover all sports, we will focus on a different sport every week, and we will talk each and every sport in each season. The hottest recruiting news and more coming soon to statechampsportsnetwork.com and every State Champs social media platform.
You do know you want a contest to spend the whole day with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just want to sit here and eat this delicious pizza?
We could do other things.
A little help?
That was the best day ever!
Some people will do anything for flavor. Now get a meal deal to fit any budget at the home of flavored crust.
Hungry Howie!
Back inside the State Champs studios now to talk our preseason State Champs top 10 football teams heading into the 2019 season. Our digital managing editor, Matt Mowry, back in the house. Talk about working hard. Trying to assemble the state's preseason top 10 is exhausting. Granted, he's not alone in this venture. He has done it. Let's reveal the top 10 and please talk about a few of these squads.
Well, we talked earlier on in the show about some of the teams that are right on the precipice and they just need to kind of fall over that hump.
Right.
The top 3 in our list here are all teams that are kind of in that situation. Our number 1 going into the season is West Bloomfield, a program that's made it to the finals 2 years ago. They won a district title last year. They've made the playoffs in 5 straight seasons after playing in the postseason just twice prior to Ron Bellamy's arrival in 2010.
Right.
They're 44-14 since 2014, and they've been right there behind Clarkston in the OAA Red. This is just going to be one of those, can they take that next step? They've got 8 starters back on defense, including their entire defensive line, featuring Cincinnati-bound Sterling Miles at defensive end, and backed up by a pair of Michigan commits in middle linebacker Cornell Wheeler and safety Makari Page. On offense, there's a D1 quarterback in CJ Harris, a 4-star running back in Donovan Edwards, but the Lakers do need to replace their middle 3 on the offensive line between the 2 tackles that return. And another team that had big losses to graduation, and if you just looked at that for Belleville, of about all of their players that went on to the next level, a lot of them to Michigan State, you would think that this would be a rebuilding year until you look at what the Tigers have coming back. This is another program that took a step forward last season. They won their KLAA in their first year in the league, and they made it out of the second round of the playoffs for the first time in program history. This is a team that, again, is right on that precipice of taking the next step forward. And one of the things that they're going to have to do better than they did last year, according to the entire coaching staff, is play defense better. The next team that we talk about that is right on the precipice is Oak Park from the OAA White. They've made the playoffs in 7 straight seasons, but they've yet to win a regional title since Greg Carter showed up in 2011. The Knights did lose a quarterback in Dwan Mathis, who's now at Georgia, and both of their running backs. They might not miss a beat offensively. Frank Black takes over under center for Mathis, and he has weapons in king-size pass catcher Malik Carr and Davian Prim, and Penn State-bound athlete Enzo Jennings, who's primarily a safety, may show up a little more on offense this year. And that doesn't even talk about the jumbo-sized offensive line that has possibly the best player in the state in Justin Rogers at tackle, along with Rashawn Benny, who is almost as well thought of at the other tackle. On defense, you have both of those guys, along with Tremaine Oliver and Donde Price on the line, and then you have Jennings and Jalen Mines in the secondary. That is a talent-packed team, and that's part of the reason we have them so high, is that it's time for them to translate that talent into production and into a title. Most of the rest of the top 10 are teams that have done it in the recent past, whether it be Warren De La Salle, which is now the 2-time defending D2 champions, or a Detroit King team, which is the defending D3 champion, or D1 Power Castech, which has been either contending for a title or right there on the cusp, and Clarkston. At Chippewa Valley, that's another team that we talked about, that they kind of got over their hump last year a little bit. They'd won a title before, but it had been quite a while since they'd won a title. So this last year was kind of a little bit their coming out party. They've got massive losses to graduation too when you look at all of the players that are now playing in college. But they returned 4 out of 5 on the offensive line, and they've got Josh Kulka, who played wide receiver last year, to take over under center for Tommy Schuster, who was their established quarterback last year. And they've got Myron Harris and Antoine Gunter back at running back. And Quillen Howes, Miles Harris, and Carday Johnson all give them options on the perimeter. It's just going to be, again, rebuilding that front 7 for them as well, and how much they can kind of control the clock with that offensive line and running game. And then at number 9, we have a Clarkston team that is as hard to get out of the top 10 or get rid of as a summer cold. I mean, as much as you want to drop them out every single year, all they do is end up in the finals again. It's a team that, again, like last year, has to replace almost everybody at the skill positions. But when you can build around tackles like 4-star Garrett Dellinger and 4-star Rocco Spindler, who play on both lines, you've got those 2 guys protecting a new quarterback in Mike DePillo, and then they'll just reload around those guys. And that's one of those programs that, until they take that step back, they belong in the top 10 every year.
Yep, 2 anchors right there for Clarkston for 2 more years to come. So yeah, you can never count out the Wolves. We get the emails, we see the comments, but until they prove us wrong, Clarkston's always going to be right there in the mix. Hey, big matchup in week 1, Chippewa Valley taking on Saline. That will be our main event. It's the Thursday night nightcap at the PKC down at Wayne State, so you might want to check that out. And if you see us there, say hello. Well, that is our show. Remember, State Champs airs next week, Sunday, September 1st at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit and on State Champs Network's Facebook page, YouTube, and Instagram account. Of course, it will also be loaded up at statechampsnetwork.com. State Champs Extra Points talk show. It's going to be a live show, and it airs every Friday night from 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. You can watch it live on our Facebook and YouTube channel, State Champs TV. Let's talk next week. Thanks for watching. State Champs High School Football Preview Show is presented by Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare. Also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. And by Hungry Howie's, your home for flavored crust.